give me $3,000 for that same apartment in the same time period, as opposed to $1,000 in the long-term rental. That is what makes the short-term rentals kind of exciting and appealing for a lot of people. So I've been doing a little bit of the one versus the other, and I thought to myself, it would be kind of cool if we did the short-term versus long-term rentals. What those are, how they work, and how to think about it before you decide which one you're going to go with. And potentially, you don't really have to choose one or the other. You can do both, just not in the same unit. Fair? All right. So what is short-term? What is long-term rentals? Like, you might have heard those terms, but you're not quite sure how they work. So if we're talking about short-term rentals is going to be something like Airbnb. Short-term rental really is what you would think about it. It's you take an apartment and you rent it for a night, or you rent it for a weekend, or you rent it for a week. So that's where the short-term renting is. The long-term renting, I'm going to call it LR here on the screen, is going to be when you rent it for like 6 months plus. Typically, the leases are 12 months on the residential, with an ability to renew. Sometimes they're month to month, but typically it's about 1 year lease. That is the most typical thing that you're going to see. And if you have ever rented anywhere, you will understand that when you go out, they're like, yep, you're gonna have to sign a lease for 1 year. You're like, all right, sign the lease. Although there are communities and states where month to month is a preferred thing and totally normal thing. So again, it's going to depend from market to market. And the more you do this, the more places you decide to go in and rent and learn kind of how things are done, you're going to see that while something might be a norm per se, it's not always applicable everywhere. So let's talk about this whole like short-term, long-term, what makes more sense and why. The part of the long-term rentals that is really cool is that once you find a tenant, you're more or less set for that year if you go with the 1 year contract. Oftentimes, if they like the place, if they are right, like the price is right, all things work out, they will stay for 2, 5, 10 years, which is pretty cool. Imagine you rent it once, and for 10 years, you're collecting checks. You don't have to do much of anything else. I mean, on occasion, you might have to go and help with like, okay, we're gonna, replace the toilet, or we might need to like, let's give it a fresh paint job or something like that. But for the most part, you can leave it alone. The part that is also nice about the long term is that day-to-day management, day-to-day work is much less. And so when we're start talking taxes, which is important conversational piece for this particular component, the government also understands that it's much easier to manage somebody who's been there for a while. Like, you work way less as opposed to short-term rentals. Now, the short-term rentals, if you think about Airbnb, they're cool because you can get way more money. So for example, I might be able to rent one apartment long-term at $1,000 a month, but that same apartment on Airbnb can fetch me about $100 a night. Well, if you were to do the math, you will realize that Airbnb can give me $3,000 for that same apartment in the same time period, as opposed to $1,000 in the long-term rental. That is what makes the short-term rentals kind of exciting and appealing for a lot of people, because they're saying, I can make more money. Now, the downside of the short-term rentals is that you have to do, it's labor intensive. So you have to find a turning service, or you have to go in and be the turning service, meaning that you have to advertise it. You have to respond to the people when they're having 10,000 questions and book it. You have to meet them or figure out how they're going to get a keys. You are going to have to go in and clean it and flip it. You're gonna have to furnish it. So you're gonna, when we're thinking about that, like typically on the long-term rentals, you just give them an apartment and they bring their own furniture. You could have it furnished, but you typically just leave it alone. They bring their own furniture. On Airbnb, most people when they travel for a weekend don't carry their furniture with them, so you're gonna have to put furniture in it. And you know, if you're looking for higher prices, if you're looking to be able to kind of really stand out from the crowd, thinking of the interior design, thinking of appealing and cool features, thinking of like comfort and fluff and that kind of stuff is going to be hugely, vastly important for you to be very successful. So sometimes people say, well, I'm just going to get Airbnb, and they just put some sort of like wooden chair somewhere, and there's like no dining set in the kitchen, and there's like no utensils or anything, and there's like a bed with a mattress. Yeah, that's cool, but you're not going to be able to get as much money if you were to have it fully furnished, where you have this beautiful, comfortable couch and maybe a TV with the cable service and Wi-Fi. I mean, think about it. If you were to go into the hotel, what are the things that you would perhaps want to see in it? And that's kind of how you design these things. Typically, you're going to have to get some utensils and some things in the kitchen if you're offering kitchen to be part of that stuff. So, start thinking of, if I was to go somewhere, like what are all the things that I would potentially need, from like bottle openers to can openers to blenders, toasters, toaster ovens. I mean, right? Start thinking about it. Forks and knives and plates and cups and all of those different things that play the part, that all needs to be part of the Airbnb. So while you do have ability to get more money per month, you do also have to do a bit more work to put it in. Now, you don't have to be the turning service, but you're going to have to hire somebody, which is going to cut into your income, into your amount of money that you're getting. So that's one. The second piece to think about is that there's up seasons and down seasons. If you are somewhere by the beach, maybe your in-season time is going to be that like July, August, maybe September, right? Maybe starts as early as April. I don't know. If you are somewhere in the ski resort mountains, well, your season is November through April, roughly speaking. So if you are in, major city like New York City, well, your season is all the time, I guess. But so sometimes it's seasonally based. It's also weekend based. So prices sometimes, when things are really popular, there's something really big happening. Say there's a car show in Javits Center, for example, in New York City, and you happen to have an apartment right across the street. Well, guess what? For that particular weekend, you can likely demand higher income. For something else, it's going to have to be lower. So it's going to vary, and you're going to have to pay attention to that component as well. The final piece to think about the Airbnb is that you are going to pay much higher taxes. So the cool piece about the real estate is that it's taxed, the income of real estate is taxed at a much lower percentage point than earned income, than like going and having a job. And when I say earned income, meaning like when you trade your time for money. And it has a cool ability that even if you have a job that is maybe 40% tax right now, if you get it and go long term, you could potentially reduce that taxable bracket from 42% to 20% or 15% or 10% or whatever, right? So work with your CPA on that. Don't take my word for like what it's going to be. I don't know. But when you took an Airbnb, they will look at that as ordinary income because how labor intensive it is to find people and to do stuff. They're going to charge you much higher taxes. Now, you could potentially hire the entire team and hire an entire group of people that are going to go and manage. And at that point, you're starting a business. And so now you could potentially look to incorporate, have multiple units happening. And now you're starting to operate more like a hotel. So you can expect to pay hotel taxes and income taxes and all these different things. And if you're looking at doing something like that, I highly suggest you work with an attorney and you work with a CPA to discover and uncover what makes the most sense for you. So there you have it. You can have short income from the Airbnb and short rentals from there, or you can have the long term and do less work. Which one you choose is really up to you. There's a lot of people that have both and they absolutely love it. So you get to decide of which one you want to do, but I always do highly recommend that you talk to your accountant before you make any decisions. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay forever money blessed, and do remember, you are only one deal away. I want you to be happy. Don't you want to be happy? I want to be happy.